Wait. 8? Make that 11. Look, I'm sorry, but more about that after the video. Also, I'm launching a new Discord server for all of you, link is in the description. Let's go. When I first started this channel, I made a video about building my own Windows 98 gaming PC, except it was lacking in the build department. It was more like I just disassembled an early XP machine, added an odd graphics card that wasn't really period accurate, and called it a day. Today I'm not building a Windows 98 PC, that's going to be another video in the future. No, today I'm building a Windows 95 machine. I actually sourced parts from around my local area, yard sales, Craigslist, and deep in my basement, to build this machine. I have an old Excel branded case I bought off of some guy near me. He's also sold me a few old Macs that I will be featuring in upcoming videos. A cool thing about this case is that it sits horizontally. It looks akin to IBM cases of the same era. I was thinking that it may have come from an IBM clone. Also, it comes with a power supply that looks like it won't kill me. The motherboard we're using is an OEM board from a Dell or a Gateway PC from the era. I couldn't really find out which. It was one of the earlier boards to support the ATX form factor. The name of this board is the E139761. Rolls right off the tongue, doesn't it? It's a slot 1 board, so it will support either a Pentium 2 or 3. It also has the Intel 440BX chipset. The I/O shield that came with this board kinda doesn't fully fit, but I'll make it work. The processor we're using will obviously be the iconic Pentium 2. The one I have here is the 300MHz version, since that's the one I could get my hands on. These things are rare around my area. All I can find are Pentium 3s and 4s. I love slot 1 processors, they look just like game cartridges. This one is notable due to the fanless heatsink it has, just look at those fins. This might sound familiar because the name is very similar to the shitty card I used last time. The graphics card I chose was the Diamond Nvidia Riva 128. It sounds like the last one, but it's actually a completely different series. This card is a bit late in the 95 era, but it fits regardless. It's got 4MB of SG RAM. I was going to use this Real 3D Starfighter card, but since I knew I could find Nvidia drivers easier, and that this card was released in 1998, I went with the Nvidia card. These are the only 2 cards I could find in my collection that were close to period accurate. I picked a sound card out of my collection, and it happened to be one of the many versions of the Sound Blaster 16. This one is called the Audio PCI 64V. It's just what I had laying around, and I was not going to use the integrated sound on the motherboard. And we have 192 megs of RAM. I know this is an odd amount, but it's the sticks I had. It's not like this board is dual channel or anything, so this will work fine. When I was looking for a hard drive for this build, I went through my pile of IDE disks and found 2 candidates. I didn't realize until we started filming that one of them had a broken Molex connector, so I went with a larger 60 gig drive, even though this would have been overkill for the time period. Also, I found an old mechanical keyboard at Goodwill for $1, so I took some time cleaning it up. It works great, and the switches are nice and clicky. Cleaning it took a while, but after it was finished, even though it smelled like alcohol, it looked almost new. So now let's get to the build. I stuck the I/O shield on the motherboard and it just kinda stayed there. Hey, I'll take it. While we're looking, this is a good time to mention that the board has 1 AGP slot, 4 PCI slots, and 2 ISA slots. Here, I seated the motherboard and put the screws in to mount it to the case. I know I said it earlier, but slot 1 processors are so satisfying. Just look at that grace. It made a loud popping noise as I pressed down on it, and I was scared that I may have broke the board, but it turned out alright. Here I am, clumsily putting in the graphics card. I gave up on the first shot and got a different angle, and it fit in that 1 AGP slot just fine. I installed the hard drive in the built-in cage the case has, and secured it with 2 screws. I know I should put more than that, but I'm not going to move this PC around much, and I didn't feel like taking the case apart to get to the other side of the drive cage. Also, that ain't going nowhere. Now let's put in the RAM. Make sure the tabs are fully down and we're done. I plugged in the main power connector from the power supply, gave power to the floppy drive, and plugged in the hard drive and the CD drive. plugged in the front panel power switch as well. I also struggled with the other front panel connectors for about 5 minutes before getting them all connected. Also, remember when I said the I/O shield was weird? Well, yeah, it's still janky, but it works. I connected the floppy drive, but then I came to the conclusion that the IDE cable I had on hand was a smaller connector and not the larger one hard drives use. So I stole one out of another rig I had in my closet. I also used another cable I stole to plug the CD drive in. Doesn't look pretty, but again, it works. Now it's time to test. Time to install my totally legitimate copy of Windows 95. Also, the power supply didn't explode when I plugged it in, so that's a plus. And the moment of truth. It works! But the CD drive doesn't! I plugged the keyboard in and went to the BIOS to see if it was detecting all my drives, and in fact it was seeing the CD drive. After trying to get the drive door open with a paperclip and failing miserably, I just wrote it off as a mechanical defect. I swapped the drive with a newer one. This disappointed me since the only other ones I had were either black or green, neither fitting the aesthetic or the time period of the case, but it's all I had on hand. Okay, so this case is kind of bullshit. You need to remove the hard drive and the floppy drive cage to get to the other side of the CD drive to unscrew it from the case. So I had to unplug and remove all those things before I could replace the drive. Here's some footage of me replacing the drive and plugging it back in. And yes, I took the extra time to add the screws to the other side of the hard drive cage since I had to take it out. So here's what it looks like with the new CD drive. Yeah, it's not going to win any awards or anything, but it gets the job done. After all that, it seemed like the computer didn't even recognize the CD drive. The hard drive I put in had a copy of Windows on it already, and it froze when I tried to boot into it. Also, it's been a long time since I started this channel, and none of you have actually seen my face. You can see a slight reflection of me in the monitor in a few of these shots. I'll do a more formal face reveal at some point, but until then, these accidental shots are all you're going to get. At this point, I tried to take the drive back out and boot from it as the only master drive in the system, and it worked. I'm writing this script well into the future, so I forgot exactly how I fixed these issues, but I'm pretty sure they had to do with the jumper positions on the hard drive and the CD drive. I got the Windows 95 install disk loaded and it started to format the hard drive. I apologize for the flickering CRT footage. I was using my phone camera to record this. Once it restarted, I was graced with the sight of ScanDisk for the first time. The Windows 95 setup is so nostalgic for me. My first computer was a 95 machine, and I remember reinstalling the OS a few times for various reasons. That tile blue background always seemed so cool to me. You got keyboards, CDs, VGA cables, and the Microsoft mouse. Pretty damn cool. This setup is just fun for me. I always got a bit of enjoyment as a kid typing in fake company names in the user info fields, or just seeing all the things I could install. Communications? Disregard the fact it didn't have an internet connection at the time, but it has a picture of a phone next to it, so gotta check that box. Sure, I didn't own a fax machine, but Microsoft Fax? Hell yeah, I'll install that. Sounds important. Also, I always loved that little animated drum icon. Why don't we have cute little loading icons now? They're always some sort of wheel or some dots or something like that. Everything sounds like it has purpose, or just seems more dramatic than it actually is. Packed full of corporate buzzwords and phrases of the 90s. What you want to do and more is now possible. Whatever you do will be more fun. As a kid, that really meant something. Made me excited to move my mouse around and click on the start button, push in a floppy disk or a CD and pretend I'm on some sort of virtual surfboard or something. Maybe I'm reading too deep into it, but hey, that's pretty much the point of my channel. I rebooted once the setup was finished, and there we see it. Getting ready to run Windows 95 for the first time. Truly a sight to behold. And I ain't got a mouse. I'll get one later. Gotta set the time and restart again. One reboot later and we're greeted with the Windows 95 desktop. So simple and charming. So now comes the part in the video where I went to find drivers. I didn't have any blank CDs at the time of filming, and since I didn't want to drive 2 miles to my local Walmart and pick up a stack and burn one, I tried to copy drivers to a USB stick with one of my laptops. One that has a broken backlight for its screen, so I'm using the monitor as its display. Windows 95 didn't recognize the USB stick. I should have known this, but an attempt was made. So then I went to attempting to split files across multiple floppy disks. I even cracked open a brand new box of diskettes. Predictably, that ended up not working, so after a ton of time I just said screw it and bought CDs. After some long, arduous hours, I burned a bunch of drivers and games to a CD. It worked great. I installed the graphics card driver manually and set the display resolution to a reasonable size. Unfortunately, that meant the refresh rate changed and caused more flickering on camera. So I apologize about that. Having copied the drivers and games to the hard drive, I took the CD out and gave it some much needed praise before throwing it in some drawer somewhere. Now to install the sound card, we can't forget that. I plugged it into one of the PCI slots and connected the cable to the CD drive to get the CD audio to work. I installed the driver via the convenient exe file and tested the CD audio. Plugged in my giant speaker and yep, it works.
Let me take you to the promised land.
Now it's finally time to put the side top panel on. It doesn't always fully fit on, so it takes a bit of work to get in place. And oh yeah, I forgot to secure the sound card. And it's done! The monitor can go on top now. The first thing to run on a PC like this is obviously Doom, so I did just that. The old pseudo 3D FPS is always a treat to play, especially on old hardware, even though I suck at it. I also booted up the DOS version of Oregon Trail. Even though this game is from an earlier time period than this computer, it's still a staple in my book. Call me basic. Wolfenstein 3D is great too. It's simplistic and repetitive, but killing Nazis is always fun. The mazes are easy to get lost in, but finding hidden items is always rewarding. I also had Oregon Trail 2 in its original box, so I wanted to show it off for you guys. Installing it was a breeze. It also required QuickTime, so hey, we got our first Apple product on a PC on the channel! The second version of this game was kind of what you'd expect. Obvious edutainment feel, but with a point-and-click vibe going on. The CD-based point-and-clicks were mesmerizing back in the day, but today they kind of feel like they've been out in the sun too long. I still enjoyed playing it for the time I did. And that's all we got for today. Please let me know how you felt about this video in the comments below. Was it better than my last build video? I sure hope so. If you'd like to support me and my content, please hit those like and subscribe buttons. If you want to join the community and talk to me and make some new friends, check out my community Discord server. Link down there in the description box. If you'd like to throw me a few dollars, there's a link to my Patreon down there too. See you next time. Alright, so a little status update. I'm going to try to keep up and make consistent content now. Hopefully a minimum of 1 episode per month. This is a loose guideline though, not a strict must-do at the moment. I have a ton of things I need to do right now, including college work I need to keep up on, and my gaming community has been getting back together in the last year or so. On the bright side though, I have collected a ton more hardware to show off for you guys. I even have some new virtual sampler videos planned as well. My next video will be on the PowerMac G4, since you guys voted for it on the YouTube community poll I put up. It seriously won by a huge margin. I even had the G4 Cube on that poll, guys. And you love the PowerMac so much. I was pretty surprised, actually. So don't worry, I'll be working on that video soon. So I know I said a bunch of stuff was coming in 2018 and I let you down. I plan on making 2019 even better than I originally planned for this year, and I'm going to try my best. Thank you guys for sticking with me through these rough times I've been having. And also, I think the Discord will seriously help me with keeping up with it. I'm looking forward to seeing you all there. See you later.